Well, as you can see, we had a fair bit of snow. Today's Monday, started yesterday morning, came down fairly heavily, and we've got a real nice coating all over the garden, probably about 1.5 inches thick. So I've got some quite nice shots yesterday, and today I'm actually changing the actual setup, which I'll show you now. So this is the setup that I'm using. I have some silver birch logs positioned on the table on top of a Black & Decker workmate. I've got fat balls in a feeder on the right hand side, and on the left hand side I have the lichen covered branch that I want the birds to land on. This is the view from the actual hide. You can see it's quite a nice little setup, and ideally what I would like to have is the birds landing on these positions here. Where you have the fork of the actual branch, the birds can look really quite attractive when they're in this position. The way to actually get them to pose nicely here is to have plenty of birds coming down, and we do get lots of starlings coming down in the garden. Here you can see you can't really get any more birds on the actual feeders at all. So what happens is other birds will have to queue up and wait their turn up on the lichen covered branches. Here they're usually fairly stationary while they're waiting. They're not moving around an awful lot. So you can get some really quite nice pictures here. This one was shot at 1,000th of a second, but I could easily have done this one at 500th of a second. So in the next video we're going to be looking at the pictures I took on the second day, where I'm actually using a different setup. So this time we've got a different setup. I've got a mobile fence that I've made, and here I've got the lichen covered branch nicely positioned there. Not as much snow on as yesterday, which is a pity, and I've also got this branch there. Also, you can't see, but actually in a trough there's actually sort of bird food and stuff in there to try and attract them, so we'll see what we get. This is the actual view of the setup. Again, I've got the lichen covered branch on the right hand side by the actual feeder there. On the left hand side I've got a thicker branch there, again with a feeder attached to it. And ideally this is where I would actually like the birds to be positioned. This starling's posed nicely on the top of that thicker branch on the left hand side. I've used 1,320th of a second at f4.5, and it's actually stopped the snow quite nicely. The shutter speed that you use for actually stopping the snow, and it's really down to your personal choice. This is 1,000th of a second, and you can see it stopped it. With this picture, where I'm actually using a lot slower shutter speed down to 120th of a second at f11. The only problem with doing pictures at this slow shutter speed is you will have a lot of pictures spoilt by subject movement. Bird has got to be very, very stationary to get a sharp picture at 125th a second. The distance that you position the setup from the hide makes a lot of difference to the finished picture. You have to position it to set up for the larger birds that are going to coming down, and on this occasion it's blackbirds, starlings, that sort of thing. The only problem is that when smaller birds like a blue tit come in, a blue tit is probably half the size of a starling, so you're going to get a lot smaller image size of a blue tit. But if you set up for the blue tits, when the starlings and blackbirds come in, you're going to be cutting the tops of their heads off. It's still cropping quite nicely with the quality you get from a 300mm f4. It's a very, very sharp lens, and here you've got a shot of a long-tailed tit. Long-tailed tits are very fast. They don't hang about for long at all. They won't pose nicely for you. They'll fly straight onto the branch there for a brief second and straight onto the feeders. So you need very fast reactions when photographing them. Here you've got a shot of a male blackbird. It's positioned on the thick branch on the left-hand side. Nice background, nice alert look on it, and pin sharp. It was 500th a second at f4 on ISO 800. And here a shot of robin on this mobile fence, and I will be showing how I use this mobile fence in future videos. Just a couple of short videos of the robin on the snow covered logs. the moment I'm videoing a robin that's actually just coming there. Looking at the camera information supplied with these last few pictures, you'll see that I'm using exposure compensation to get a correct exposure. Photographing in the snow can fool the actual meter to think that there's more light than there actually is, and what will happen is the camera will stop down to compensate for that. So you need to use exposure compensation to override this to get a correct exposure. In the next video I'll be showing how to photograph birds at ground level from a very low viewpoint. Hope you enjoyed watching the video. Please check out my website www.rogerhansfrps.com, and thanks for watching.